From an Iceman to the Electric Man, we have X-Men among us. Here are 9 people with real superpowers. Number 9. Stephen Wiltshire, visual memory. Stephen Wiltshire is a brilliant artist, famous for painting detailed cityscapes after only seeing them for short periods of time. His visual memory is far beyond that of the rest of us, and this has led him to create some awe-inspiring art pieces. Having been born in 1974, Stefan was mute and lived his childhood in relative isolation. When he was 3, he was diagnosed as being autistic with no language or ability to communicate. Luckily, at the age of 5, his teachers at the Queen's Mill School in London realized that the only thing he seemed to enjoy doing was drawing, and that it was actually his method of communication with the world. At first, he would draw animals, then London buses, and then he moved on to drawing buildings. They managed to use his love for art to help him learn to speak by the age of 9. But the passion for drawing stayed with him to help develop his career as an artist today. It's particularly amazing how he can recreate cityscapes after so little time looking at them before returning to his studio, and indicates a much stronger ability of visual processing than would typically be expected. This skill has taken Stephen around the world and commissioned for numerous projects that have included portraits of celebrities, and was awarded an OBE by the Queen in 2006. He's also a skilled pianist and singer, which shows that his brain is functioning on higher levels in multiple areas and really does have a modern-day superpower. Number 8. Daniel Browning-Smith, Rubber Boy. The next entry on this list is less cerebro and more stretch Armstrong. Daniel Browning-Smith, also known as Rubber Boy, holds the Guinness World Record for being the most flexible person, and for the fastest time a person has managed to squeeze through an unstrung tennis racket 3 times. He can dislocate both arms, both legs, turn his torso 180 degrees, and lots more, all because of a condition he has called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. This causes extreme elasticity of the joints and skin and allows him to contort into these awkward positions. Daniel's abilities first led him to a career in the circus, but now he works in the movies as a stuntman, brought in to take on roles that no other human could. He has been in Minority Report, Men in Black 2, Paranormal Activity 3, and also on TV shows like CSI. Through his work, he has broken his arms and legs in pursuit of the perfect position, but it's all in a day's work for Daniel, who also recovers a lot quicker than you would expect. The pain, he says, is minimal, and he can even dislocate his ribs and stick them through his chest. Ugh. Number 7. Velu Rathakrishnan, Teeth of Steel. Malaysian Velu Rathakrishnan, known as King Tooth, has an unusual talent that involves incredible strength in his teeth. A strict vegetarian, he believes his abilities are down to a particular form of Indian meditation that he practices, as well as the 15-mile run, 550-pound bar lifts, and jaw training that he does daily. Whatever the technique he uses, it definitely works. He currently holds the Guinness World Record for the heaviest weight ever pulled by teeth, and the way he broke this record is insane. In 2007, using only a steel rope clenched in his mouth, he was able to pull 297.1-ton train along over 9 feet of track. If this wasn't enough, he was also the previous world record holder from 4 years previously, when he had pulled a 260.8-ton train along almost 14 feet of railway. It seems unbelievable that a human is able to pull such a load with just his teeth. And you definitely shouldn't try this at home, because in all likeliness, you won't get the same results as he finds. Number 6. Wim Hof, the Iceman. Wim Hof, also known as the Iceman, is known for his superhuman ability to withstand extremely cold environments. He holds 26 endurance records, including the longest ice bath, climbing mountains in t-shirts and shorts, running marathons without water, and completing a marathon in Finland above the Arctic Circle in just shorts. Wim also teaches people his techniques to allow them to endure difficult places with what he calls the Wim Hof method. This is based around 3 principles: exposure to the cold, controlling breathing, and commitment. By learning the method, he claims a series of benefits, such as increased energy, better sleep, heightened focus, reduced stress, enhanced creativity, and lots more. While many students seem to have found success with this, there have been at least 4 people who have died while trying to learn the breathing techniques, and Wim is still undoubtedly the best in the world. In looking at how he was able to achieve this ability, the National Academy of Sciences published in its journal that by consciously hyperventilating, Wim was able to increase his heart rate, adrenaline levels, and alkalinity, which makes him far more resistant to the cold. His genetic makeup is also thought to make up a substantial difference too, meaning that he is truly unique. Number 5. Daniel Kish, Echolocation. Daredevil is a superhero who is blind and gains his superpowers by his ability to listen to his surroundings, something that Daniel Kish can do in real life. He was diagnosed with a retinal cancer called retinoblastoma when he was a baby, so he needed to have his eyes removed and now wears prosthetics. Because of this, he has been forced to focus on his other senses as means of seeing the world, and to do this, he uses echolocation. In a similar way to how sonar works, Daniel makes clicking noises with his tongue and is able to interpret the way these noises bounce back to him to create a mental map of his surroundings. He developed this technique naturally and only realized it was something special when his friends from school suggested that it was echolocation. He can tell a difference between the leaves and bark of a tree, for example, because of the different ways that sound bounces off the different materials. He now teaches others to use the same technique. While it may come across as socially awkward in some situations, he feels it is important to help people who are unable to see to be able to be self-reliant, rather than being completely dependent on others. As the president of World Access for the Blind and regularly touring to give talks, Kish has dedicated his life to helping other people, which makes him the full package of a true superhero. And now for number 4, but first, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. Number 4, Mikel Latito, Mr. Eat It All. Some superpowers can be used to help or benefit the world, but others are simply weird and bizarre, with no clear benefit beyond entertainment. This is the category that Mikel Latito from France found himself in, being known as Mr. Eat It All and able to consume virtually anything. Throughout his lifetime, he was thought to have eaten over 9 tons of metal. He was diagnosed with an eating disorder called pica at the age of 9 when he started eating parts of his family's television and kept going from then. Things he was known to have eaten include 2 full beds, 7 televisions, 6 chandeliers, 18 bicycles, 15 shopping carts, and the meal that he is most famous for eating, an entire Cessna 150 airplane. Number 3. Lu Thao Lin, Magnetic Man. Lu Thao Lin is another real-life person who has powers that you would normally see in a comic book, this time having a similar ability to Magneto. Yes, that's right. Lin is a real-life magnetic man who at the age of 60 realized that his tools started to get stuck to his body, and it wasn't just his small tools either. For some reason, the Malaysians seemed to exert a magnetic field that would allow him to place an object that weighs several pounds to his chest. At events, he would showcase his abilities by first starting with spoons, forks, and knives, before moving on to larger items like hammers, saws, irons, and large metal plates. His party trick would involve him attaching something heavy to a metal plate, which he would stick to himself and use to pull it along. There are a number of accounts of him using this method to hold suitcases in the air, and even pulling a vehicle along the road. He was eventually taken into a Malaysian university to try and help determine why he had this amazing power. They found that he didn't actually exert a magnetic field that everyone had assumed, but actually had an unusually high levels of friction in his skin that simply made him more sticky. This suction would get stronger with more force, and could easily explain why he was able to drag a car along. It's also hereditary, with his grandchildren also showing signs of the ability. So before you give up on your own chances of having a superpower, why not try putting a spoon to your chest and see if it sticks? Number 2. Shakuntala Devi, the Human Computer. Shakuntala Devi was a writer from India whose extraordinary ability at mental calculations gained her a place in the Guinness Book of World Records in 1982. She wrote a number of books on controversial topics, but it was her ability with numbers that made her a superhuman. Many adults struggle with complex calculations, but when she was only 5, she was the sole money earner for her family and was calculating cube roots in her mind. She started making appearances at Indian and later English universities, where she would show off her abilities. From determining the day of the week someone was born by just knowing their birth date, to calculating the roots of 9 or 10-digit numbers in mere seconds, her mental agility was second to none. She dabbled with other professions during her life, all of which involved numbers, and towards the end became fascinated with astrology, giving readings to people around the world simply based on their date of birth. Probably her most amazing feat, though, was what led her to being named in the Guinness Book of World Records when, in 1980, she was able to correctly calculate the multiplication of two randomly generated 13-digit numbers in 28 seconds. Number 1. Raj Nair, the Electric Man. The final superpower on our list comes again from India. Raj Nair has an unusual ability. He is seemingly invulnerable to the dangers of electricity. His ability has led him to being called the Electric Man, and after seeing what he can do, it is clear why. Most humans will die if exposed to 1/10 of an amp, but Raj can withstand several amps with no signs of injury whatsoever. He often performs around the world, showing off his conductive abilities. Can, for example, hold a light bulb or blender in one hand and turn them on by holding an exposed electric cable in the other. He also likes to place the cable in the better conductivity of his mouth, with which he can power any device applied to any part of the rest of his body. This is one to absolutely not try at home. You wouldn't stand a chance with such levels of currents passing through you, but for some reason, Raj is impervious to the danger. He only found out about his ability after his mother died when he was 7. In an attempt to take his life, he climbed a transformer and grabbed onto one of the wires, but nothing happened. Interestingly, he's not the only person to have been known to have such a resistance, but it is incredibly rare and definitely not something you should try and see if you have yourself. Thanks for watching! Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Peachy Planet.